Right now is when you have a choice. You can either unhijack your mind or go down with the ship. Now, really, an unhijacking mind is realizing that there is no normal. There never has been. And the sooner we step outside of the cave and stop watching the shadows on the wall, like Netflix and other media, the sooner we basically let go of our collective old identity and start really living.
What if the universe and life is trying to purge our old stories, but we're addicted to the story, so we're trying to go down with it?
One of the more obvious ways to hijack our mind is through the various distractions of the day.
There's a lot of blinders out there, and I think a lot of it now is in the phone. A lot of it's in like sports. A lot of it's in everything that people just kind of numb themselves with.
Now, obviously, there's a lot of ways to get distracted, but the core of the whole thing is the culture of doing. As a culture, it's more important to be doing something, anything, even smoking, rather than just sitting there and being. Now, I noticed a new trend. People going into a public bathroom and watching a show while they're going to the bathroom because they're so addicted that they can't take time to even go to the bathroom without getting distracted. That's pretty addictive. In fact, they're so addicted to being distracted that they give up on being embarrassed at all.
When we're at a job that doesn't fulfill us, doing everything we can to keep things together, in my eyes, that's more doing nothing. And finally listening to silence is doing something. Do you notice how every time everything in your life falls apart, finally when you listen to yourself, that starts to take care of things? So actually, to me, that's doing something.
Agreed. The point is that there is value in just sitting and listening. In fact, that's how some of the cures have been found through the indigenous cultures. It's through listening to the plants themselves that reveal their secret.
The molecular properties of plants and the art of combining them. When one asks them how they know these things, they say that their knowledge comes directly from the plants. So Navi arrived at an initial conclusion, and he put it this way. Their knowledge was undeniable. They're healing people. They're treating diseases by stuff that doctors and hospitals all know nothing about, other than the fact that they do this, and this works.
Now more than ever, we need to get back to our indigenous roots, and not in way back to the Stone Ages kind of thing, but just tap into that wisdom that the indigenous people have. They're not all perfect in everything, just as we aren't, but they do have a listening capability for which we have also, but that's been lost. And the sooner we regain that, the better off we're going to be and actually survive it all.
We're in this space of extraction, therefore we're not in our indigenous mind, we're in the colonized mind. And we need to decolonize the mind if we're going to get back into this renaturalization of our mentality.
So a big part of unhijacking your mind is just listening to nature, listening to God, listening to the source of everything, listening to your inner voice, your soul. Now, one of the great benefits to listening is that you basically can combine some of your goal-oriented logical mind with letting the universe unfold what comes at you.
The biggest outcome I can see for myself from here is nothing compared to what I could create this year. Because I'm not including all the new insights, possibilities that I'm going to have tomorrow and the next day. So use it as a ladder rung, but also be willing to adjust and keep, okay, now that I know this, I'm going to bring this in while still having kind of some ability to be flexible and let the goal follow you too.
The source of everything, the universe, God, whatever you might call it, is so much more creative than we are. And yet, we think that we're the creative ones. We rely on those logical things that say, okay, I have to do this, that, and ignoring all the synchronicities and all the different messages that come forth from the universe themselves, trying to show us a much more expansive way of being than we might think of with our logical mind. I like how Kyle basically says, okay, have that goal as a guide, recognizing there's all this wiggle room to open up to so much more that the universe could give you than if you just tried to stick to the narrow focus of a particular goal or outcome.
Life is trying to tell you things that are so much bigger than you've ever understood. And this is why listening is a bigger deal than understanding, because it might kill your understander. It might be bigger than your understander. You listen to the pain in your body. You listen to what God's saying. You listen to the energy that's coming through. You listen, but you don't shrink it into an understanding. You don't.
most of us are not going to get to that space where we can basically contemplate, have that space of just being, taking the time to do all that, because we're in reactionary mode. We're always trying to just barely survive. The more people that are basically able to be entrepreneurs and to have time and location-based freedom, the more people that do that, the more that we'll be able to enlighten the whole body of humanity. Because without being able to take that time, you're not going to be able to get to that next level that you need to get to be able to expand your mind, to your consciousness and your horizons, and see choices that you wouldn't otherwise if you're just responding to basic needs. Check the links in the description below for different ways to basically create a side hustle or a complete income online. Long ago, our ideas on liberty and freedom were subverted. And it's been that way for a long time. Now, a lot of people had to die for those freedoms. And currently, we're experiencing a new death, but it's not a physical death. It's more a death of identity and what we think of as normal, or what we think of as the way things should be. It's the death of the old so that we can be reborn.
You must die to be reborn. I love that Christ said that. You understand that? Those are Christ's words.
Right.
You must die to be reborn. It means you must be willing to let go of your personal self, of your psychological self, of the complaining voice.
Your identity.
All that.
Your image, your blah, 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 all that.
In order to be who you are, you must be willing to let go of who you think you are. That's what's meant by you must die to be reborn. And as you let that go, and He will help pull it out, right? And so you use it spiritually, and you will see that it will help you more than any meditation or anything. You meditate so that you have the center so you can let go of what life is doing. The real growth is letting go.
Jesus and all the spiritual masters of the past have these messages that we need to take to heart right now. Yeah, just like the truth of today, those messages have been hijacked for their own needs of the time. Look at the Romans and how they reshaped a lot of Christianity. Unhijacking our mind isn't just unhijacking what we think, but it's also unhijacking our perception of our history, our perception of how we came to be on this planet. It's looking a little more deeply and saying, okay, well, if we came from a different past than we might think, how does that change our outlook, our capabilities, and our ability to be what we are? It changes everything. And so that's by design. It's much like the colonization of the planet. If we're seen as a piece of meat that just came together by accident, and everything around us is by accident, and it's all just random rock and dust and whatnot, then it's much easier to colonize that, to control it, and to say, well, you should then be able to just go forth and do whatever you need to do to survive, survival of the fittest, and so on. When you have the capacity to listen, you realize you can go to the source, and you don't need to rely on any of the written words, because a lot of those written words have been selectively maintained, and you cannot trust what you read all the time. That's why in the past, a lot of times, what they would do is have meaning within meaning, so that there was one way of basically keeping the truth alive, so that it looked innocent. A painting of something isn't just a painting. There could be messages and symbols behind it. And it's done intentionally so that the truth can remain and be seen by those who understand it. If the truth were just plain and simple, then it could be easily manipulated, which it has been. But there are still some encodings, even deep within our DNA, that are revealed. It's recognizing that we have those messages within us and without us, and that we can even get messages directly from the universe itself. As we move forward, there's all kinds of pivots that are going to be necessary. And some people think we'll go back to the Stone Age. I really don't think that's going to happen. My bet is that the technology will remain in place, and that's because it's so much easier to manipulate a mass of people through technology. TV has proven that. Media has proven that. Through manipulations, you can take someone who will actually beg to be imprisoned. That's powerful. So that's why I believe that technology will be maintained despite all the changes. But the thing of it is, we need to learn to flip the technology, so instead of it being a method of control, it's one of connection. It's one of commerce at a level where we all gain. We can use the technology not only to inspire each other, but to buy and sell from each other, so that we can basically take attention away from the conglomerates, away from these monopolies, and make sure that the small to medium-sized businesses make it through this next phase. So check out the links in the description for ways to pivot online. Or I have another video on unhijacking the mind here. and another interesting video here. And if you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a like. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.